Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Brisbee's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbeesrestaurant.com. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile. Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we're going to talk a lot about the New Orleans Saints. We'll talk about NFL free agency and the NFL draft. One of our favorite guests on tonight, Mike Detillier, NFL analyst, college football analyst, also WWL Radio, and a whole lot more. Mike, welcome to the show.
My pleasure.
Thanks
pleasure.
so much for
Always
coming
here.
in.
When you going to be back on Eric's show? I got my boy JC in Denver. He's the first one to always razz me about that.
He's always, he's hit me on the Twitter all the time. He wants to know. I said, Mike's a busy guy. I'm lucky I could get him a couple times a year.
I appreciate it.
But I do appreciate it. Before we get started, we like to let folks know a little bit about what's going on. I know you got your draft book that's coming out. Let folks know a little bit about it.
Yeah, so we basically have hit the tape, so to speak, on that. And hopefully, first couple of days of April, we'll have it out for print and be mailed out. And so, man, thank goodness.
Yes.
A lot of hours put involved in that. And try to hold off as long as you can because free agency does affect the draft and the process of going through it. But it's basically almost put to bed, so to speak, on that. And so that means that I'll be doing 35, 40 shows a day until draft season's over with.
Mike, how can folks get a hold of it?
SaintsReport.com is the best place to do it. Also, MikeDetillier.com. And like I said, first week in April, we'll have it out too.
Looking forward to it as
Thank
always. Mike, let's start off with free agency, how the Saints have done, and just an overall, give us an overall kind of a micro view on what you thought has gone on. Then we'll kind of get into some individual players and how you think they're going to fit here in New Orleans.
Well, listen, I'm a big believer, and you've heard me say this for so long. There ain't even a dozen players in the National Football League that no matter where you put them, their production's the same. Everybody else is fit. All this system talk, man, come on, you can throw that out. Everybody's system. You may not fit one scheme, but you can fit somewhere else. So when I look at free agency, there are certain needs that this football team needed to address and do it early. Guard, they had to get that. Middle linebacker has done that. I think Klein's going to be a really good player for this football team. But the glaring weakness, and we know it, cover cornerback and the guy that can affect the quarterback. Yes. And I don't care who you have in the secondary. If you don't have people that can put pressure on the quarterback, and don't tell me I've watched film of Alex Okafor and he's going to be the answer.
Right.
Come on, he's been hurt the last couple years. Is he a good player when he's healthy? Yeah. But he's been knocked around and nicked here and there. You hope you can get a good season out of him, and he becomes your Nick Fairley out on the edge. But this football team desperately still needs an influencer on the edge and cornerbacks, plural. Because, okay, you went into the season, you thought that was the thickest area on your team last year. And look what happened. Right. You got hit and whacked across the board. So you got to build up depth. I think, Eric, it's one of the things, and I've talked about this to college coaches, general managers, head coaches in the NFL too, about is that now pro football is emulating the college game. And we had this discussion once already about Chip Kelly and great success at Oregon. kept you on the field, I wore you down. If I keep you on the field over 70 plays, my chances of winning are dramatically lifted.
Yes.
Look at the national championship game, over 90 plays, best defense in college football. They got it handed to them. Atlanta, 3 quarters, terrific football against the Patriots.
Right.
You could hear the air come out of them in the 4th quarter. That's what the offseason's all about. Not just finding starters, but finding role players and depth. I think it's the one thing's dramatically changed. People ask me all the time, which changed more in the 30 years in doing this? The lack of quality depth on defense, front 7. You look at college football and look at the drop-off. Look in pro football, because that's the feeder system.
Yes.
Eventually we'll see that quarterback too, but I do think that that's one of the things, and they've done, I think, a solid job of addressing some needs on this football team. The 2 big ones, though, are still hanging out there.
And we'll get into that. Larry Walford, you like him?
Yeah, he brings you a real physical presence up front. He's a big road grader, and he's the perfect fill-in for Jari Evans to come in and do that job. He graded out higher than any other Lions player as a run blocker, pass blocker last year. So he's improved dramatically as a pass protector, but I'm a big believer, and the stats prove it, that when this football team runs the ball and has a commitment to the run, they win. And that record of over 30 carries, of 42-4 is not opinion. It's fact. They do that, and Wolford's a big part of that, hopefully on that right side, that he can fill into that position. Evans was tremendous for so many years.
You mentioned A.J. Klein. What do you like?
His versatility, his smarts. He knows what to do on every play. I love a guy who's 6'3" and 240 pounds and can run, like a receiver and bench press 225, 35 times. That doesn't tell me if he knows how to play ball.
Yes.
Or what to do on every play. Klein does. I watched him play so much at Iowa State, but then when Kuechly went down, he filled in and did a really good job. I think that that's a double hit, because not only you've got a guy that can come in and be a starter for you and a leader on defense, 5 years, 5 different middle linebackers, but also, too, it takes a piece of the Panthers' defense away.
Yes.
Because if Kuechly goes down, you've taken his replacement. If Thomas Davis, now I don't know, no, he's basically the Pro Football's version of Ponce de Leon, though he drank the water.
Yes.
Ponce is still looking for the fountain. Davis has drank from it.
That's right.
And so when you look at it, it's a kind of a double hit here, but he's a natural guy to take over a team. I'm the leader here. This is how I'm going to handle this. I think that was, for me, the most important pickup this offseason.
Kind of what they were looking for in Laurinaitis last year.
Yeah, and he had the intangibles. He had nothing left in the gas tank.
How about Ted Ginn? What do you think? I mean, again, in his 30s now, but punt returns, kickoff returns. It's been a little bit iffy in terms of the hands at times, but he gives them that speed threat that they had with Henderson and Meacham.
Definitely, he's a Devery Henderson type player, in that he can spread and blow the top off of a coverage. He's gotten much better. He can thank his career to Ricky Proehl, because he bounced all around, one of the bigger disappointment. Then he goes to Carolina. Ricky Proehl's there, former vet wideout, that told him, hey, you got to trust your hands. Now he comes here, Curtis Johnson's here. So again, he's got a good coach that can kind of bring into that. He is not going to fill the Brandon Cooks role. No matter what anybody wants to say or write, it's not that. His role is really to make sure the safety doesn't sit in the box, because every once in a while, Drew Brees will throw that deep pass and it'll hit Ginn. So again, it was a solid pickup, and he'll certainly help you as a punt returner. And I think that's a feature this football team's really struggled at ever since they decided to trade off Darren Sproles.
You mentioned Okafor briefly. Why don't you go a little more in depth into what you like and don't like?
He looks the part. He's got excellent pass rush skills. He's quick off the line. He's not been healthy. Last 2 years, he's been nicked up. 2 years ago, he put up some pretty nice numbers for the Cardinals. He's a situational pass rusher at this stage. But again, we go back to it. You got to have one of those guys or a couple of guys on your team that can do it.
Yes.
Because if somebody goes down, you got to find somebody that can fill in. And with all the different schemes you have up front, he can be helpful if he's healthy. The same thing can be said about Manti Te'o.
Yeah.
Exact same thing.
Take it from there then.
2015, he was really playing well. First 10, 12 games of the season, then he goes down with an ankle injury. Then last year he carries Detillier. So, you know, what are you getting here? Now you've got two players that have been productive when they've been healthy, but they've also spent a lot of time in the tub.
Yes.
So, you know, you hope they can stay healthy. For Okafor, you hope he can give you production like Fairley did inside, that he can do on the edge. You hope that can happen. With Manti Te'o, he is kind of the insurance policy. If something happens at middle linebacker, he could feel right into that, and he's familiar with the scheme, having played under Mike Nolan in San Diego.
Nick Fairley deal. What were your thoughts on that? Was he a must-get for this team?
I was shocked that he re-signed.
Right.
Only because I thought he could have probably got more in the free agency
I thought so
market.
as well.
I understand the reasoning when you think about the Saints, in that they have Tyler Davison and Onyemata and Rankins, football minimum wage,
Yes.
rookie contract. I can afford to take that shot with Fairley. Now, what he's got to prove is he can do it year in, year out. I always think he's going to be a sort of a flash type guy that, you know, he may play great in 1 or 2 games and then he's in the witness protection program for a couple games. It's just been his MO throughout his career. So what makes you think that all of a sudden that's going to change? But I like the pickup because, in essence, by the time those rookie contracts come due, you'll have a much better gauge on Fairley.
Plus, again, they really didn't guarantee him a lot of money. The $8 million signing bonus and the base salary for 2017 is only fully guaranteed.
I'll be honest with you, he's the most natural pass rusher from the interior they've had since Leroy Glover.
Yeah,
The best.
Yeah.
There's no one that can do it as well as he can when everything is clicked right for him. Just hope that he can do that game in, game out.
This may be an unfair question, but what are your thoughts on the future of Stephon Anthony and Haloi Kakaha? Obviously, Kakaha's been often injured, another ACL injury that he had to deal with. And on Anthony's part, you know, we just hear that his problem is really between the ears, the ability to be able to read defenses, know where he has to be. What are your thoughts on those two guys? High draft picks now that, you know, hopefully they'll be able to contribute, but I think the clock is running on both.
Yeah, and on Anthony, if you knew he was having trouble, why move him? I mean, that's like trying to take up a new profession and teaching him that linebacker spot. Physically, he's got all the skills that you're looking for. We did a couple TV shows together, him and I, and he admitted he was having some difficulties in picking up that Sam linebacker position. Difficulties in the coverage part of the game, difficulties in his reads, and you saw it. Sometimes when he was supposed to blitz, he was in coverage. Sometimes when he was supposed to be in coverage, he was blitzing. You know, at this stage, you got no value with him. If you're trying to trade him, what are you going to get? You've already tipped your hand that, and having publicly said he's having difficulties picking things up, and then you go out and you sign Klein and Manti Te'o. So what does that tell everybody else? You know, well, we're not going to give up anything or much for him. I think his time here is really, really ticking. With Kakaha, he's a situational player. He's been a playmaker when he's been healthy, but the knee injuries have mounted up quite a bit. And now you've got to the point where, you know, I heard him last year say about, well, he held his hand in the dirt. Well, okay, he's a 6'1.5", 245-pound guy. Well, on first and second down, if I see him with his hand in the dirt, guess where I'm running the ball? I'm running right at him. And so I also slow down his pass rush that way too, because, you know, he's kind of worried about how it is. So with Kakaha, I think if he's healthy, he can help you as an edge pass rusher. The problem is if you're talking about an every down player and he's got his hand in the dirt, I know where most teams are going to run the ball.
You think Anthony's got a shot to turn this thing around? Do you think he can learn the Sam? Do you think he needs to go back to Mike?
My thing is, I'd move him back inside, but you know, the nothing coming from the Saints tells me a lot that he's not part of their future plans.
Well, that's unfortunate considering what they gave up. Let's talk about the Malcolm Butler deal that's out there right now. First of all, are you in favor of any type of a deal? What have you heard in terms of possible compensation for Butler and for the New England Patriots if this deal is done?
Well, it would all depend on both, on what you got to give up financially. I mean, he was talking about $13-14 million a year. That's a lot of money.
Is he worth it?
I'm not paying him $13-14 million a year. But we all know it's all about the guaranteed money. And I think that's kind of where we maybe have a little bit of a stall in these negotiations. It's what you're going to guarantee him. It's not what he's going to end up with 5 years from now because, more than likely he's not playing under that same deal. Belichick and all wanted to re-sign him, but their offer was more in the $6 to $7 million range, which is way underpriced for the type quality cornerback he is. And so that certainly plays a big part in it. And, what you have to give up to get. I've heard two different scenarios. One, in giving back the pick that you got late in round one for him. The other scenario is a second-round pick and another pick later on. So we'll see how it works out. But when you 2017 and you the head coach and you have to win, do I want the rookie cornerback that I don't know, or do I take Malcolm Butler, who's played in both man and zone cover schemes? He's been a good cover cornerback for them. Now, he's aided, like every other cornerback he is, by a pass rush.
Yes.
Now, what he had in New England, he's not seen in New Orleans, unless they somehow get a couple of new guys into the mix. They're not going to get that pressure that the Patriots did.
Do you like the fit here? Does he fit
I think
the
he's
scheme?
I think he's a good fit on this team. Still a young player at 27 years old, so you're not talking about bringing in a Champ Bailey who's at the end of his career, or Brandon Brown, or who had basically hit the wall as a player. You're still talking about a young football player here who is very skilled, and he's not all-pro, but he's on the right underneath that all-pro level.
Is there concerns about the return of P.J. Williams,
Damian Swann,
and also Delvin Breaux? All these guys coming back from injury.
Yeah, I'm not concerned on Delvin as much as P.J. and Damian, because with P.J., that's a serious head injury that he suffered. And he was the most improved defensive player from one year to the next when you started the season. What you don't know is the unknown. What happens the first time he gets hit? How his body reacts to that. Same thing with Damian Swann, who's been nicked up with a lot of different injuries.
Probably one concussion away from his career
being over with. It's correct. So there's a lot of unknown in that. That's why I use the term plural. Yeah, you can bring in Sterling Moore, and he helps out.
Do you like it?
I like it because he fits into that nickel back area that you have to have on this football team. And if one of your guys go down, you could easily slide him into that starting position. So when people tell you, oh, well, they got a lot of depth with PJ and Damian, what they haven't figured out, Damian didn't play at all last year, and PJ played, 2 games. So there's a lot of uncertainty there, Eric. That's why this is what the offseason's about.
Yes.
Is getting starters and also building some depth up that you thought you had a year ago. And boy, did that get taken away by injuries.
Darryl Tapp resigns. What do you think about that?
He's a serviceable player. He had a comment to me when I interviewed him that every year now, 50, 51st, 52nd, 53rd on the roster. He knows that at this point in his career what his job is. And again, we bring up the depth issue there. He's a professional. He knows how to play this game real well. He's still a solid guy to come in and get some quality snaps.
And you need those guys. Again,
I go back to it. You get in these shootout games, and this team should be used to it. They've been in shootout games, over the last 5-6 years. You better have some people that can fill in, because once you get past that 69-70 mark on defense, you see you're not winning a lot of games if you got to play that way. So you need as many quality bodies as you can get.
Today, Teron Armstead reworks his deal. His roster bonus is turned into a signing bonus, $5 million. That gives the Saints an additional $4 million right now under the cap. Right around $10 million is what's estimated. Some speculation is that was done because of maybe trying to get a deal done next week at the owners' meeting with Malcolm Butler.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's certainly part of it. But we've seen this before over the last couple of years, where they've turned certain deals, and it's kind of flipping money. You get money now, it's on the credit card for down the road. And so you understand that a lot of the contracts are set up that way that you can do it. It helps give you your money draft-wise. Also, too, this football team's got to look for the future. What are you going to do with Kenny Vaccaro? You're going to have to spend some coin on Kenny and having him to return back to this football team. What happens with Drew Brees?
Agreed.
The other part about it is, in the second kind of role of free agency, right after the draft, you see some teams cut loose veterans because they've drafted guys at those positions. And if I got a defensive player out there, man, I'm going after him. But I need the money to do it because at this stage, if everything's fair, the playoff team is going to get that guy if money's close. He's going to say, man, I'm going to sign there. So you have to overpay. Now, a lot of Saints fans don't like to hear it, but it's the real world. You're not living in 2009 anymore. You're living in today's world where you 3 straight years of 7-9.
Do you think the Malcolm Butler deal gets done?
Yeah, I do. I think it'll get done.
Before the draft?
Before the draft.
Before the draft. Talk about the Cooks deal. Did you like it? Did you not like it? There was so much speculation out there on what was offered. Let me ask you something that I know you know about because, again, you work with the Tennessee Titans on their radio network. What was the offer from Tennessee?
Well, they basically wanted to swap places in round 1. They would have given you the 5th pick. You would have, the Saints would have gotten the 5th pick in the draft. The Titans would have got the 11th, and they'd have kicked in a middle round selection. So Saints turned that down. And I know John wasn't going to give up the 18th pick in the draft. That I knew for sure. He was not going to do it. He wanted to keep those 2 first-round picks. He felt as though if I move anything, I'll move down from 5 a little bit, but I still want those 2 first-round picks that I can kind of maneuver come draft time. But they didn't get full value for Brandon.
No.
He backed you into a corner. You had no choice but to make the deal. You could say, well, I'll keep him, but then you have an unhappy football player in your locker room. You have a guy that is certainly productive. When you look at, he's caught over 1,100 passes back-to-back years, 8 touchdowns or more back-to-back years. Only 2 other guys in the NFL have done that, Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham. So don't tell me it's Madden football, because if that was the case, then everybody could do it. He did give you a certain feature from a speed standpoint that, Jen fills a role, but he doesn't fill Brandon Cooks' full role out on this football team.
Philly offered Malcolm Jenkins and their 3rd and 4th round picks. I turned that down. In a second. In a second. But what about the situation now with the 32nd pick and the 103rd pick coming back to the Saints? I hated the fact the 4th round went back to them. That's the thing that really kind of irked me more than anything else about the deal. Your thoughts on that deal as a whole? They
didn't get full value, bottom line. And again, it's amazing. Rick Venturi and I were having this conversation the night before the trade. He said, I bet it goes down. He said, let me tell you, I've worked with Belichick in Cleveland, still really good friends with Bill. And he says, one of the things he has people do for him is, I want the list of guys in 1 year left on a contract, 2 years left on a contract. And he said he studies that to find a deal. And he sort of hits teams of, this is where I'm going to go, this is what I'm going to do. And he says, you know what, he doesn't hit on all those picks. And every year it's a little different with him. Some years he's accumulated more picks over the last 10 years than any other team in the National Football League. And yet this year, look what he's done. He's traded so many of those picks, but he's got something in his pocket, Jimmy Garoppolo, that he can get a ton back in return. So he does it better than anybody else, but it was the best offer you had. So either you took there or you waited till draft time. People say, well, if you wait until draft time, guess what? They're falling in love with the college receiver. So you almost were backed into a bad deal here. Not say bad deal, but you didn't get full value for Brandon Cooks.
I would agree with that. Did they raise the expectations of the fan base when Peyton publicly came out and said they wanted a defensive starter, they wanted 2 high draft picks? Now, I know that's Peyton, again, trying to raise the market.
Yeah, sure.
But did they raise expectations a little bit?
Yeah. I think he played a little bit of poker and it didn't quite work out. Other teams read the tea leaves too. Only thing I know is John Robinson, who's the general manager with the Titans, guess who he worked under? Bill Belichick. So you don't think he's doing the exact same thing Bill's doing in figuring out what, from a value standpoint, he could get? And so it is what it is, Eric. I think you didn't get full value for Cooks. It's all going to be on who you pick with those selections.
Right.
And we have seen, and it's documented, 2010, 2014, 5 drafts while you were waving behind the limousine with a Super Bowl champion, you got 4 players left on your football team. That's it, 4. Everybody says the 2015 draft, oh, it's great. What's great about it? The most productive player from that draft is Tyler Davidson, a 5th-round pick.
Right.
You don't know anything about Kakaha at this point other than he has flashed it, but he's been hurt. P.J. Williams, hurt. Damian Swan, hurt.
Right.
Andrews Pete's been bounced from right tackle to left guard to left tackle, back to left guard. Garrett Grayson.
Yes.
Major whiff.
Right. Let's talk about quarterback because the internet blew up today with a sighting of Johnny Manziel and Sean Payton having dinner together. I said today on my radio show, first of all, being in maybe the biggest party city outside of Las Vegas in the United States is probably not a good fit for Johnny Manziel. But besides that, looking at him on the field, I just question his accuracy. And I think that in this offense, you got to be very accurate to be successful. You've broken this kid down from the time that he was in high school. Tell us a little bit about that. Do you buy into Johnny Manziel and the New Orleans Saints? Is he a fit in this offense?
Everybody thinks they football's version of Dr. Phil. I can take you and I can change you. Okay? And they can say, well, look what I did to the career of Drew Brees. Well, Drew was accurate before you got him. It's not like all of a sudden, you took the sandpaper out and smoothed over a few little edges here and there. But, I mean, bottom line is Johnny has been most successful improvisational. Breaking loose from the pocket, making plays on the run, and throwing the football. He's much more accurate throwing off the run than he is in the pocket. Doesn't see well downfield, bottom line. And so I think with Johnny, it's more about what does Johnny put into this? He's got nothing else offered. This is his life raft.
Right.
If he doesn't make it here, he's still a rich kid.
Yes.
That's the thing a lot of people forget.
Right.
He was privileged. He had a lot of money before he took one snap at Texas A&M. Came from a rich family. His dad was in the all-field business. And so, he felt privileged. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. Was he a great college player? Yes, he was. You think about it. Who gave Nick Saban more trouble other than Deshaun Watson? Johnny Manziel. And it's not debate. I mean, he beat him once and almost did it twice with a defense that, they couldn't stop a sneeze if they had a handkerchief.
Right.
So he's a non-fit in this offense. In essence, pocket, quick, throw, read, downfield. Can you kind of carve something out of him? For Sean to have this much interest, he must think he can. But you know what? I got coaches in my family. I've been around them all my life. They all think they Dr. Phil. And every once in a while, they hit it. They hit it with a guy that they really make something out of. Is he talented? Yes, he is. But his focus would be the biggest issue for me. Is his mind on being 100% football player? Think about signing him, though, Eric. Everybody said, well, he'd be a bad influence in the locker room. Well, if he's a bad influence, I tell him to get to stepping.
Right.
I don't owe him anything.
No, and he's going to come here on a minimal contract anyway.
Exactly. So I understand the flirtation with that because here's a super talented college player, a guy that is a little shorter than Drew, but basically the same size. Right. And that thing, he's a playmaker at the highest level, at the collegiate level. Now, I'm not going to hold what he did in Cleveland against him because if that was the case, then you wouldn't deal for anything involved with Cleveland. But to me, it's more about his personal life and his focus, more than fit. Because if he really is a mature guy and focused, I think he could play in this league. My question would be, is this a little bit of the makeup and shine a little bit on a player to mask the real problems with him off the field?
Right. Tim Lolito signed with the Titans today. Your thoughts on Lolito here in New Orleans? Your thought on his fit with the Titans?
He was a solid backup player, center guard guy. He wasn't going to be a starter. But again, we go back to it. If somebody goes down, he could fill in, and he was solid in that category. I thought he was a better guard than center. I think they tried to make him into a center. It just wasn't right for him. You could see, not from a run blocking standpoint, pass protection. When people were coming at him at that angle, he wasn't used to picking it up. And so I think he's a solid pickup for the Titans. He's a loss for the Saints because he filled the role as the guy if your center guard went down.
Right, no doubt about it. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Mike Detillier is our guest tonight. We're going to take a quick break. We come back. We're going to talk a little bit about the NFL draft. We'll talk about the Saints' needs. We'll kind of get into the meat of the draft as well. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about a little bit about LSU spring football practice. And, of course, your phone calls will be coming up as well. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We'll be right back.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Amco Fence, locally owned and operated since 1976. Fully licensed and insured and a member of the BBB, Amco serves both residential and commercial customers. If you're looking to repair, replace, or install a fence for security or aesthetic reasons, Amco Fence supplies wooden, metal, chain link, vinyl, and ornamental or automatic gates. Amco aims to satisfy your fencing needs. Amco Fence, 504-468-9559 or amcofencecompany.com.
TikTok Cafe, located on Causeway South at the I-10 in Metairie, is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Our menu offers breakfast dishes like our Western omelet made from scratch biscuits, grits, egg sunny side up, and lunch specials like our homemade cheeseburgers with a side of golden brown fries. Don't forget about our weekday lunch special and that every Tuesday is steak night. TikTok Cafe, open 24/7 at Causeway South at the I-10 in Metairie.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Mike Detillier is our guest tonight. Mike, Saints pick round 1, 11 and 32. Round 2, the 42nd pick. Round 3, 76 and 103. Round 6, 196. And round 7, 229. Mike, talk about this draft. Talk about the strength of this draft, if you would. Just an overall look.
Well, this is where you got to hit the home run. What you've been getting in free agency is a lot of singles and doubles, but you know what? You gotta hit the home run somewhere, and where it's real thick, secondary. I've done this 30 years. I've never had. I was telling you this, from 20 to 80, the numbers are so close. So when round 1's going to over, you can say, man, look at the list of guys. When round 2's going to be over, well, look at the list of guys. Those first 3.5 rounds are really, really good. Now, you probably ended up with about 20 real first-round pick guys, but it's from there on where it's really good. Thick at tight end, wide receivers is a pretty good area there. More running backs this year than I've seen in quite some time. It's one of those type years. Cornerback and safety, really good. You wish you had more pass rushers. That just never enough of those guys. Solid at defensive tackle. Not enough at the guard tackle position, and certainly center. And I'm a big center guy. I think that's an area where you got a couple of pretty good ones there. One of them right down the road in Baton Rouge with Ethan Posick. So quarterbacks, big uncertainties. Every one of them.
Where does Posick play in the pros, you think?
I think he's a better guard. To be honest with you, I think he could play right tackle. I told this to Coach O. Right. And he was like, oh, okay. Because I needed him at center. Right. With the quarterback, and I understood that with the quarterback issues that he had, he needed somebody to calm everybody down. The quarterback got too excited. Hey, everything's going to be fine. Needed to be the leader, make all the calls up front. But I think he's a better guard tackle than he is a center.
Talk about Louisiana players in the draft.
It's the biggest haul I've ever seen. You're talking about probably 24 to 25 guys that'll either be selected or signed as priority free agents from the state of Louisiana. I have never, ever had that many guys from this state. It's remarkable You might say almost like a little drop in the dime state, and that's why 7 out of the last 10 years per capita, Louisiana has finished number 1. And the other years they've either finished second or one time they finished third, but they finished second twice. But 7 times number 1, it's tremendous what you see coming out of LSU. But not only that, you see a guy like Jeremy Couture, who would have gone to LSU, had great issues, Middle Tennessee. Chad Williams be the first Grambling selection. You got to go back quite a few years before that happens. A young man who played his high school football right up the road from where I live, Elijah McGuire at UL Lafayette. Tanzel Smart had a great career at Tulane, but it's kind of spread out a little bit. Tim Williams can't, and Robinson from Alabama. Now, Tim may not go in round 1 because of the off-the-field issues, but he could sneak in there. Robinson will be a first-round pick. But Leonard Fournette and Jamal Williams, just remarkable. And Jamal may really push the limit here because Patrick Peterson was the highest drafted since the leagues merged. He was the highest drafted defensive back. Now, you got to go back. Jerry Stovall, he came in as a dual player. And Johnny Robinson started the same thing back in 1960. But 5th pick in the draft, Jamal may go 3rd.
Wow.
Tyson Jackson was the highest drafted LSU defensive player overall with the 3rd overall pick. So Jamal could push the limit there. I think 1-2 right off the bat. I'd be surprised if it wasn't Myles Garrett, Solomon Thomas. It's what happens at the 3 spot where Jamal's going to come into play at 3, 4, 5. And I'm just telling you now, some team is going to try to trade up for Leonard Fournette. The fear is that he gets to 8 and Carolina picks him.
Right.
And it's a fear for Saints fans, too,
Sure,
to have to play against him twice a year. But I suspect that they'll have a few teams maneuvering to try to get Leonard Fournette at that 4 or 5 spot before he gets to 8, where Carolina would pick. And I think that's going to be a lot of hot talk as the draft gets closer. Much more about Fournette than Jamal Adams, because I think a couple teams have zeroed in on that, one of the teams being the Philadelphia Eagles.
As you've gone through your research for your draft guide, some players you really like that if you were a general manager you would covet?
Man, Myles Garrett, when you watch him, when he's been healthy, again, and that's part of the issue too. And I give him a lot of credit last year. He could have easily done like a lot of guys, I'm not playing. He tried to play through the bad ankle, but athletically, he's got it through the roof. Solomon Thomas, terrific football player. Again, Jamal Adams, Leonard Fournette, those guys. I'm a big Derek Barnett guy, Tennessee. I think in our society, we've kind of lost a little bit on the portion about effort. And he's a talented pass rusher, broke Reggie White's record at Tennessee. But watch him on the field. Great effort, runs the field extremely well. Cooper Kupp, I think will be a 2nd-round pick, a young kid from a small college. How well he's been able to make Forrest Lamp, a big offensive guard from Western Kentucky. So there's a lot of guys in this draft, just depending on where you're selecting, that would really help. And one of the guys to watch in round 2, if the Saints still have that 2nd-round pick, Evan Ingram from Ole Miss. When you think about the fact that you need to fill in the catches that Brandon Cooks has. You look at him, he's 6 foot, almost 3. 230 pounds, built more like a big receiver than a tight end, gives you a great effort as a blocker. He's not a great blocker, but he gives you effort. Always open, always finds the open spot downfield, and he can run. And I know Sean has talked about we want to help ourselves on defense. But if he's there and you have that 2nd-round pick, we talked about this last year. A lot of talk about Michael Thomas. And I was dumb enough I didn't take the bait, and I should have, because we spoke about it on this show that he was a guy in round 2 that they may have an interest in. If he's there in round 2 and you have that 2nd-round pick, Ingram would fit this, and he would fill in the catches that Cooks has. Are you convinced Kobe Fleener is your guy at tight end? Come on.
He's probably on the hot seat here right now.
I would think 2017 is the real hot seat, and he looked to be a good fit here. But he never was on the same page with Drew Brees. And instead of catching 50-something passes, he should have caught 70 because he dropped at least a dozen of them during the regular season.
No doubt. Position, when you look at the Saints, what direction do you think they go in this draft?
If you have all the picks, I would certainly say edge pass rusher, cover cornerback, I still think an offensive player. I still think a receiver tight end, and that's why I brought up Ingram. They got to go running back, and I still have a belief early on they're going to pick a running back. I think that they've looked a little bit around that that issue, because I think in today's game you want the all-purpose guy, and we've seen on this team they're not going to give the running back 25 carries. But you want a guy that can catch the ball coming out the backfield, can carry it 5, 6, 7 times, kind of give Ingram his break. You don't have Tim Hightower on the contract also. So I wouldn't be surprised that if you had 5 picks, it ends up being 3-2.
Let's talk about running back for a minute, because they are lacking that Reggie Bush, Darren Sproles type player on this team that has always been a staple in this offense. You know, last week we talked about Christian McCaffrey on this program. We don't know where McCaffrey's going to go. Some have him going early, some have him going late.
He'll go early in the first round.
If the Saints are looking or can't get a guy like McCaffrey, what are some other players that maybe fit that role in this draft that they may be attracted to?
I said it already. Elijah McGuire. I think he'd be a perfect fit. He always laughs because I call him Louisiana's version of Reggie Bush, and really he is. From a high school quarterback who broke basically every record at UL Lafayette. Kareem Hunt from Toledo, who's a really good football player, a little thickly built guy more than Elijah, but I think he would fit there. Interesting if you had the second round pick, and Alvin Kamara from Tennessee. I don't know what the world Butch Jones was doing not using him, but I do know one thing. You're getting a guy with not a lot of thread coming off the tires with him. Really good edge runner, terrific receiver coming out of the backfield. But I think the running back will be a little bit later in the draft. I can't see him using a first or second round pick on a running back, but I could see round 3 being a target area if you had those 2 third-round picks.
It's just the year they selected an LSU player, but they've been under a lot of pressure, and they've got a lot of good LSU players coming out this year.
You would think that, but, you know, Kevin Minter was out there.
No doubt, huh? And they didn't even take a flyer on him.
Not a sniff. Not a sniff. And, you know, and they bring in Teo. So I just got to go by that track record. They haven't done it. And so there's something there. That many people coming out of LSU, and you haven't selected one since Al Woods. You can say, well, we only got 1 pick per round. There's a little bit more to that than meets the eye.
What about a quarterback? They had a private workout with Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech, Tennessee's Joshua Hobbs. You think they choose a quarterback in this draft?
It would depend on where. Now, Mahomes, and I said this earlier when he came out, he's going to end up being a first-round pick. He's the best arm talent in this draft class. I'll be honest with you, Eric, from an arm standpoint, other than Brett Favre, I mean, he's in that special category. He thinks he can put a ball anywhere out on the field. Now, for most people here, first time they saw him was he played in the bowl game against LSU. And you came away with 2 impressions. One, Texas Tech's defense is lousy. And secondly, man, that Patrick Mahomes can play.
Yeah, he can play.
Great athlete. He's not ready for prime time yet. But, boy, down the road, you got a guy here who reminds me a lot of Derek Carr. He's not as refined a passer. He's not as good as picking up downfield because he's played in that spread offense. But, boy, is he gifted athletically. And I can see how a team, and I knew it, as soon as they started working him out, fall in love with that arm because he thinks he can put a ball anywhere on the field, and he can, which is a blessing and a curse.
Accuracy?
You know what? He's been in the mid-60s and higher as an accuracy guy in that offense. Man, I look at Kaiser, who's in the 50s. That's why I like Deshaun Watson. He's been consistently in the 60s as a passer, played the best in the hottest games. You can nitpick him all you want. That guy can play. Mitch Trubisky, you know, whatever he's a one-year guy. He reminds me a lot of Alex Smith, a taller version of him. I think he can get you to a point. Is he going to be the guy that will lead you to a championship? Major question marks there. So I think the hot guy, as he gets closer, Patrick Mahomes, I think he's going to end up being a late teens, 20s pick in round 1.
Before we go to the phone lines, let's talk a little bit about LSU spring practice. Coach O's first opportunity to really have these guys in spring as a head coach. What are your impressions?
Well, they found the offensive version of Dave Aranda in Matt Canada. You know, sometimes in life, your first choices, sometimes, you know, the man upstairs, he makes those choices for you. No, come on. Everybody knew Coach O, he wanted Lane Kiffin here. And thank goodness a school hired him.
Right.
Because he got a better coach in Canada who relates well to young kids. Look what he's done. Jacoby Brissett, Nathan Peterman, and in a 4-year span of what he did to their careers is remarkable. You think about Brissett, he was such a bad player at Florida, and he turned him into a third-round pick and a really productive player at North Carolina State. Nathan Peterman was a backup to Joshua Dobbs at Tennessee. And look what he did this year. He'll end up probably being a third-round pick. Remarkable what he's been able to do with that talent. And now you see his little wrinkles. No fullback a lot of times. The H-back, a lot of 3 wide receivers. The shuffle pass, which they went to almost ad nauseum to run. But again, with the defenses trying to come up the field that quick, if you have the guy that can flip it, it works out. They've hit big. I think Matt Canada is going to have great success with this offense and what he's been able to do. Certainly have a lot of young talent at wide receiver he's got to work with. But the star of the spring has been Andre Anthony as a pass rusher. Without Arden Key, Anthony's been the guy. Just listen to how Orgeron talks. Now, I've been around him a little bit longer than most. So, he'll say a name. This guy, he's had a good practice. But listen how he talks about Andre Anthony. He did it yesterday to Darrell Williams. Almost the exact same thing. He kind of went on and on and on about Darrell. My biggest concern for LSU in 2017 secondary, it's the first time I can say that I think is the biggest weakness on this LSU team. You have a lot of question marks, and don't give me next man up.
Is it lack of talent or lack of experience?
A little bit of both. I mean, come on, you don't have a guy on your team that's as good as Jamal Adams or Tre'Davious White today. You don't have that. Dwayne Thomas was terrific last year for this football team in that nickel scheme. So you have a lot more question marks than answers in the secondary. Eric, when's the last time you could say that that's the target area? If I'm playing LSU tomorrow, guess what? I'm not running against that front seven.
That's right.
I'm going to try to throw it on them and try to get rid of the ball pretty quickly before those guys get into me. I think LSU's pass rush is going to be improved from a year ago, but I worry about the back end part of it. There's a lot of inexperience, a lot of I don't knows more than anything else. And I think that the moving of Ed Paris from cornerback to safety was the smart thing. Owen and I have talked about it. I think that was his more natural position.
Right. You mentioned talking about players. He brought up Lindsey Scott.
Sure did.
Okay. Talk a bit about that and what you think that maybe means for his career at LSU. I mean, a lot of people thought that they took a flyer on the kid. He should have went to Tulane. He's not going to play at LSU. Coach O seems to think different when he comes out and actually mentions the kid at a press conference.
Yeah, because I think, he's doing his mimicking what Matt tells him. Hey, listen, I think Lindsey Scott can play. Now, you've got a senior quarterback, but, and everybody's, redshirt the other two. In theory, that's what you would want to do, but you got to get everybody ready just in case. Lindsey Scott is not a big quarterback. And I think about that class when it came out. Who's been the most successful guy? Forcade, Nicholls State.
Yeah.
Just think about that. Basically the same size, and look what he did as a freshman at Nicholls State. Lindsey Scott was the same kind of player. He wasn't coveted by a ton of schools, and LSU came in late with him when other people ran away from the program and committed elsewhere. So I think he's a good backup, but if you look at in the future, in 2018, if you kind of putting bets right now, I would say Lindsey Scott's got a pretty good bet that he would be your starter to open the season in 2018. Now, Danny Etling's got the job this year.
Yes.
But, you just look, you'd have probably 2 redshirt freshmen that are right behind you and 2 talented kids, but Scott would have the experience.
Yes, and of course, you don't know what the future holds with a guy like Matt Canada as offensive coordinator on who he can woo down the line.
Yeah, and the thing with him is, Jacoby Brissett told me this a year ago. He said the greatest asset with Canada is his ability to adjust. What you do and another quarterback does is 2 totally different things. I'm going to adjust to you. You're not going to adjust to my system. I adjust to what you do well. That's the sign of a really good coach. That because most coaches are hard-headed. You're going to do it my way.
Yes.
And that's just the way it's going to be. Matt, he's got certain things he wants to do, but also he's willing to adjust to your talent out on the field. I think they've hit a gusher in Matt Canada as the offensive coordinator.
Last question before we go to the calls. What's the strength of this LSU team as they're coming out of spring?
as they coming out of spring, they got Darius Geis on offense.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the difference maker
Yes.
there. And I really think what they have up front along the defensive line, it's got more talent, young talent, and depth than I've seen in a long time at LSU. Big men.
Yes.
And I'm a big believer in that. That's where you win. I think he wished he had that on offense, on the offensive line. He's got it on the defensive side of the football.
DJ is in New Orleans East. Mike Detillier is our guest. DJ, welcome to the show.
Eric, Mike. Look, a couple of players in the draft. The question is about Solomon Thomas, a guy that was, rated outside of the top 10. And now I see draft boards got this guy at number 2.
Yep.
And also there was a outside linebacker, I think, out of Temple. I can't think of the guy's name, but I wish Mike would let me know a little bit about these guys.
Hassan.
Now hang up and listen.
Thank you.
Reddick, right?
Yeah. I saw Hassan. He was a guy who started his career as a walk-on.
Yeah.
You say, how could that happen in today's world? And you see it does. He's played as a guy with his hand in the dirt, also as a stand-up outside linebacker. I think he's better as a middle linebacker.
Right.
He went to the Senior Bowl. He picked that up quickly inside. And also you can blitz him inside, which I think is more and more becoming some trend there. I think he ends up being a top 20 pick. Now, I think when the season ended, I thought probably he was more of a late first-round pick. But he has played his way, not only through workouts, but played his way into being a top 20 pick. And also, it's a difficult position to master, to being that Mike guy in the middle. Let's see how well he can drop back in coverage, but he's a terrific, terrific athlete. Solomon Thomas, I think what a lot of people were looking at is he only played 2 years. He was a redshirt sophomore, so a lot of people didn't have a lot of information on him. Then when you started watching him, effort guy, kid from Texas, who Stanford's got 26 of those guys, so they got some pretty good talent in Texas out there. And Solomon was one of them, and I think he's gradually worked it up. Also, too, look at who's picking second. The 49ers, and who runs it? John Lynch.
There you go.
Guess where he's from? Stanford.
There you go. Let's go back to the phone lines. Greg is in Houma. Greg, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Greg.
Hey, guys. I got a question for Mike. My biggest concern is the safety position for the Saints. I mean, you got Von Bell, who's essentially a rookie, and Kenny Vaccaro is more like a linebacker. And I just have a bad feeling that they're going to get burnt way in the backfield. And what you thought about bringing Jarris Byrd back? I mean, if no one picks him up, hang up and listen.
Thanks for the phone call.
I
They got Eric Harris, too.
Yeah, you got Eric Harris, too. I think we went down that road with Byrd. He's not coming back on this football team.
But is it a need?
I think it is a need, but if I'm looking for some depth, I'm looking for a veteran guy too. Now I may pick a safety in this draft, and it's pretty thick there, or you can get one a little bit later.
Right.
Kenny Vaccaro, as Greg put it, has played more like a linebacker. That's because their linebacking core got wiped out with injuries. You had to play him, and this is becoming more of a space game. Now, one of the things Greg brought up, and I think it's a good point. More and more in the league today, 3 safety alignments. That was something Greg Williams brought up, and everybody kind of laughed. That's gimmicky. Look today, and how much that's being done. So I do think it's an area of concern for me, and it's an area that you have to address 2 ways. Got to draft one, and I got to bring in a veteran.
Right. So someone that may be cut post-draft.
Exactly.
One of those guys that you look at this. Well, T.J. McDonald's out there right now, but
TJ's an in the box guy. My thing about it is, Greg, the hardest thing in this world is if you don't have a pass rush, I don't care who you got playing safety.
Good point.
You're going to get beat.
Yep.
And that's where this football team has got to put some capital. You got to understand it's great to have the cornerbacks and safeties, but if you don't have a guy that can influence the quarterback's throw, you better have Deion Sanders and Ed Reed back there covering, and ain't many of those people.
And there's not one on this team.
And there's none of them on this team.
Right. Wallace is in New Orleans. Hey, Wallace, you're on Inside New Orleans Sports with Mike Detillier.
Hey, how y'all doing today? I want to ask what we going to do with Zach Screech, our right guard, blocking for Drew Brees. Are we going to get rid of him?
Thank you for the call.
Wallace, Zach is in for another year. I mean, I thought he had probably one of his best years ever a year ago. He really played.
I thought he really graded out well.
I thought he played really well last year.
Was that a byproduct of having Evans next to him in your?
It certainly didn't hurt.
Right.
I mean, listen.
Those guys know each other.
I think other than Craig Robertson being brought in, and he was a life preserver for your defense. If you had anybody to help out, it was him. It was bringing back Jari. How idiotic of the Seahawks to cut him. And even John Snyder at his press conference at the NFL Combine made the comment, I should have never done it. But it was funny. The week before he got cut, the sideline reporter for the Seattle Seahawks, Jen Mueller, who's a really good sideline reporter for the Seahawks, told us on our radio show on Second Guess, they're going to get rid of Jari because for whatever reason, he doesn't fit in well here. And I thought about, she used the term fit.
Right.
And yet, look how bad their offensive line was.
Right.
I think in time he would have done a really good job with Seattle, but I think Zach's in for at least one more year. But you've got to look down the road here, and you've got to bring in a right tackle.
Yes. So you think Pete stays at left guard? At least on the left side.
I think he stays on the left side. I think the left guard position is the best spot for him. Now, he's always made the comment to me, I feel more comfortable at left tackle. And he had some moments there at that left tackle position. But, man, if I can have a healthy Teron Armstead and a healthy Andrus Peat and a healthy Max Unger, I'm good.
Yeah.
Not on the right side with Wolford being brought in is fine.
Right.
Just hope that Zach doesn't hit the wall. But I'm more concerned about depth at that position than anything else.
And you lost Alito, so again that.
And you lost Alito. And what happens if you lose Streif?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Something they've got to address. To Metairie and Brian. Brian, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Brian.
Mike, how y'all doing, guys?
Just fine, sir.
Really, two things real quick. I know we're toward the end. First off is the Saints have been notorious for just screwing up draft picks. And the rumor mill has gone something about us getting a quarterback in the first round. Please tell me that's a rumor. And secondly, no Johnny Manziel. I don't care what we get him for. If they give him to us, no Johnny Manziel. We got enough problems. We don't need that headache. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Brian. Well,
I think
Manziel's a free agent. So.
Yeah, and I think that's the consensus in the NFL. Why would I want to put up with the headaches? And also, too, when you think about it, if you're the coach and you got to do these interviews in summer practices, guess what the first question is going to be? How did Johnny Manziel look today? You know what? That's going to grate on somebody down here real quickly on how many questions there's going to be about. For you to talk to him, for you to have discussions with him, there's nothing wrong with that. Even if you bring him in and it doesn't work out, you cut him loose. Everybody talks about the distraction. Well, if he's a distraction, I get him out of here in that quick period of time. So where this is coming from is because of Mahomes and because of the fact Sean has worked him out. Well, Sean spoke very highly of Jared Goff a year ago. He went work out Jameis Winston at Florida State. He does it every year, and for two reasons. One, you never know when a situation may come, and guess what? If he's not on my team, I got to play against him, and I want to know what makes him tick. Because, you know, in a setting like that, if you and I are at dinner and we talking, I may tell you something that I'm not going to tell you if I'm in a formal setting.
Yes.
And coaches are smart to pick the brains of quarterbacks that they may eventually have to play against.
Mike, it's been great having you back on the show.
Appreciate it, Eric.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE-TV at 10 p.m. Also on Pelican Sports Television. That's 9 p.m. every Friday night. Don't forget to catch me on the radio, 990 a.m. WGSO. That is weekdays, 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. You catch us on the TuneIn Radio app, which is a free download for your smartphone or tablet. Also, you can listen live, download the podcast at ericasher.com. Remember, every episode of Inside New Orleans Sports can also be found at ericasher.com as well. Special thanks to Mike Detillier for joining us tonight. Also to the WLAE production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Kenny Juno, Naila Jones, Trey Lopez, and my director, William Hill. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you back here next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.
New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.
WLAE, Channel 32 in New Orleans.